This episode is brought to you by my bookkeeping strategy sessions. When it comes to your bookkeeping, you're probably in one of these three areas: doing it yourself, outsourcing some or all of your bookkeeping to a professional, or understanding what the reports mean and making better business decisions from that information. Each of these stages comes with different struggles and questions, and I can help with all three. Bring your questions and I'll bring some solutions. To book one of these sessions, you can email me at lydia@dacbalanced.com. Now on with the show. You've started a home-based service business and you've found that running a business is harder than it looks and more overwhelming than you ever thought it would be. This podcast is the best of the best information that I've learned to help grow and sustain my business. Listen, subscribe, and follow along. We can avoid the overwhelm and start creating a business we love to run. Welcome back to the podcast. This episode is called What You Need to Know Before You DIY Your Bookkeeping. And what I mean by DIY is literally just do the bookkeeping yourself. So if you're new in business, or if you maybe started your business earlier this year and you've realized, I need to do something about this bookkeeping before the end of the year, before it gets really stressful. Well, these are just a couple things that you need to know before you start doing your own bookkeeping. So we're going to dive right in. Number one, you need to have a system set up or decide you're going to create one. So this could be that you start using QuickBooks, or you decide you're going to use QuickBooks, or you open an Excel document, or you have pencil and paper ready. You need one dedicated place for your bookkeeping information, and you need to use it consistently. So if you're doing 1 month on this Excel sheet and another on a totally different sheet, and then you switch to Google Docs 1 month, and then you dabble in QuickBooks a little bit, you are not going to get the results that you have to have. Make sure that you choose one system and stick with it. You can change systems, but you need to bring all the information over when you do that, and that can get kind of tricky. So straight from the get-go, just pick a system that you're going to use and use it, and just learn how to use it. The best way to change systems is going to be between fiscal years, because once you close out your books for 1 year, your accountant can do your taxes off of that, and then you can bring over those final numbers into your new system. If you're just trying to start from scratch, that type of thing, I wouldn't necessarily recommend that. I would still recommend bringing all the information over, but if you are constantly switching, it's a bad idea. You don't want to do that. So that's number one. Before you do DIY your bookkeeping, decide which system you're going to use. Number two, you need to know that you're only tracking business expenses and business income. So hopefully you do have separate bank accounts for personal transactions and business transactions, and that separation makes this process 100 times easier. Once a transaction hits your bank account, you have to assign an account to it. And these accounts can be pretty basic, like dues and subscriptions, bank service charges, travel, postage, and so on. And if you're using an accounting program, it'll prompt you to do this. If you're using something like Excel or paper, then you'll have to create this list for yourself, and the list is called the chart of accounts, and it can be customized to your business for sure. You'll need to know that, though, that you have to assign each transaction to an account. It does get tricky if you have a purchase that goes on 2 different accounts, to make sure that you're looking at the receipts for those things so you can separate the accounts properly, but you need to know just the very basics of how you're tracking your expenses and your income, and you want to make sure that all business and personal is totally separate, or else you are going to have a complete nightmare, and it might even make it somewhat impossible for you to outsource if you're constantly going back and saying, okay, I have this receipt, oh, this was personal, oh, this was business. It's going to make it really difficult if you ever want to outsource, because no one can read your mind for what you're doing, and unless you have pristine records and receipts and you've kept every single one of them, it's going to be a complete nightmare. Number 3, you need to know that you have to be consistent and get it done. This is by far the hardest part, in my opinion. Once you learn how to do your own bookkeeping, it it doesn't change. You're not constantly trying to figure out new things like you are with a Facebook algorithm to run ads or new marketing strategies or even learning new technology. Bookkeeping is a pretty consistent task, but that does mean that you have to set the time aside to actually do the work. And a few things on how you can be more accountable to this is number one, join our Facebook group. I'll be putting information at the beginning of each month to help hold you accountable and me accountable for getting our bookkeeping done. So join our Facebook group. Number two, you can also set a reminder on your calendar for the first of the month once your bank statement pops in to just do your bookkeeping for the previous month. And number three, when you receive your bank statement in the mail, make it a point to sit down right then and do the task. Number four, if you don't like doing it, then decide that it's a necessary evil. You've probably experienced this in other areas. Like, I don't always like eating salad, but it's what's good for me, and I have to force myself to do it and be unhappy the entire time. If this is you, just know it's going to be a chore and decide that you're just going to do it anyway. And number five, hire it out. If you have an extra few $100s each month, this is a great task to outsource so you don't have to even think about it. And I know this goes against what we're talking about in this episode about doing your bookkeeping yourself, but know that this is always an option. So that was all wrapped up in part 3. Let me go over that again. Just being consistent. Before you do your own bookkeeping, you have to know that you have to be consistent and you still have to get it done. So again, those tips to just getting it done. And we're going to dive deeper into this idea in a future episode, but joining our Facebook group, I post in there just reminders and for what you should be doing with your bookkeeping, and I help hold you accountable to those things at the beginning and throughout the month. You can join that by going to lydiagmailler.com/join, and you have to type all of that into the browser, and it'll take you straight to our Facebook group, and you can fill out the questions, and then I'll let you in from there. It's a great option if you're in the DIY stage. Number 2, just set a reminder on your calendar to do it. Maybe on the 10th of every month, you're going to do it. Maybe on the second Monday, you're going to do it. Just set a reminder on your calendar. Number 3, when you receive your bank statement in the mail, just make it a point to sit down right then and do the task. Number 4, if you don't always like it, just decide it's a necessary evil. And number 5, just hire it out. Like most people get to this point anyway. You DIY your bookkeeping for a while, and then you're just hire it out. Spoiler alert. All of September and October, I have a series on how to find a bookkeeper and how to utilize them for your business. So if you're thinking about that, stay tuned because I'm going to have a lot of episodes coming out for you for that phase in your business. So those are just a few things that you need to know before you DIY your bookkeeping. Obviously, you have to have a system. Obviously, you need to know what you're doing a little bit. You don't have to know all the ins and outs of bookkeeping. You don't need to go take a bookkeeping course. You don't need to go and do any of that. Find someone who can help just sit down with you, go through QuickBooks with you, show you what to do. I could definitely do that with you if you need me to, and just know what you're doing so that you can get it done each month, and just know that you have to be consistent. Know that you actually have to do the thing. Like, you can say that you DIY your bookkeeping, but if you never actually do it, well, you're missing out on a lot of really great information and insight into your business, and eventually it's going to have to get done. It's one of those things that the IRS requires it. You can't just hand them numbers that are fake. Like they're not going to like that very much. So just things to know before you DIY your bookkeeping. So this episode is short and sweet today. It's probably just about all you want to hear about bookkeeping anyway. So until next time, I would be honored to work with you. If you are thinking, oh my gosh, I'm DIYing it, but I don't think I'm doing anything right, or I have a question about this, or what am I supposed to be doing? I would love to work with you in a strategy call for about an hour so we can go through the problems that you're having and I can teach you, and I'll give you some action items to do at the end of that session as well. So to get started on that and to schedule that, you can email me at lydia@dacbalance.com with the problem that you're having, and we can discuss the best way to get to a solution. All right, so I would love to connect with you in the meantime. You can find me on Instagram at lydia.miller.mba and always by email, lydia@dacbalance.com. So until next time, go and make it happen.